When discussing the All-Americans from Scout.com and the top 100, there are a lot of first evers, including the first ever wide receiver who was ever the #1 overall prospect. Dorial Green-Beckham at 6'6", 220 pounds, was the #1 receiver, was the #1 prospect. He signed with Missouri after waiting until signing day to finally make his decision. Normally when I talk about playing early and early impact guys, I talk about filling a hole on a depth chart. But I don't say this lightly, and Dorial Green-Beckham could be one of the top 5 receivers in college football next year. And yes, I know how outrageous that sounds, but with his size at 6'6", 220 pounds, he's a 4'5", 4'6" guy, which puts him in the elite level NFL combine style. He's got the ability to come in and dominate. He doesn't need to get any bigger. He doesn't need to get any faster. He just needs to learn the reps and get a little stronger in the weight room. That's the easy part. The class of 2012 was dominated by offensive linemen, especially out west. Of the 7 states that signed at least 9 players, there's some smaller states out there like Wyoming and Montana that didn't have that, and I'm not going to count them. 7 of those states, 6 of them all had an offensive lineman as their #1 overall player. Ironically, the best prospect of the bunch, Arik Armstead, thinks he's a defensive lineman. At 6'7", 280 pounds, he is a prototype offensive tackle. He signed with Oregon. He'll likely get his first shot at defensive line. He's good enough to play there, but he's got all-time ability on the offensive line. So I hope that's where he ends up, because we're talking about a #1, #2 overall pick in 3 years if he takes to that position and sticks with it. Kyle Murphy from San Clemente is a prototype, another prototype guy at 6'6", 280 pounds. Great knee bend, great hands, good tenacity. While the offensive tackles got a lot of the headlines for most of the year, it was the defensive line position that put 2 players in the top 5, starting with 6'4", 280 pound Mario Edwards, who signed with Florida State out of the state of Texas. We talked about moving him to defensive tackle, and at 6'4", 280, he'll probably grow into a 300-pounder, and most of those guys do play inside in college. But in today's 3-4 defenses, the ends just keep getting bigger and bigger, and Edwards is the exception to that rule anyway. The exception is a guy that says, yes, most of these guys move into the defensive tackle position unless they play like Mario Edwards. He's got the quickness to come off the line, the hand speed, he can drop into coverage, and at times he'll play that zone read defense where he actually plays a linebacker type position. Edwards was followed in the top 100 by Ohio State signee Noah Spence. Now, Ohio State signed one of the best defensive line classes in the entire country, including Spence and Adolphus Washington. But Spence was ranked in the top 5 just ahead of Washington because he brings a little bit something different to the table. What I liked about him was not only the physical attributes. He's got the speed, he's got the size, he's got the quickness, all the superlatives you expect in a 5-star guy. But he also had smarts and discipline. He was a player who didn't just physically outmatch the players he went against, because he did, but he also would read the keys when teams would try and option around him. Read the belly dive up the middle, hold his position, and still get the quarterback trying to boot around him. Or he's fast enough to chase down a pitch man after playing his read if he had the quarterback. If the class of 2012 was about the offensive and defensive lines, the class of 2013 finally looks to be like the year of the quarterback. With twice as many 4-star guys in the Scout 300 as in the class of 2012, it is a deep year at the signal caller position, led by Washington's Max Brown.